I had an individual session with a dismissive avoidant recently, and he revealed some things to me that I thought would be really cool to share in terms of the perspective of the dismissive avoidant. Remember that dismissive avoidants, their biggest need inside of relationships is for peace and harmony. I'm Dr. Sarah Hensley. I'm a specialized social psychologist, and I've been studying the science of attachment and attraction inside romantic relationships for nearly 20 years. One of the things this client mentioned, which is something that I've heard a lot, honestly, from other DAs, and it's worth sharing, is the amount of incredible shame that comes up for them when they feel criticized or attacked. Okay, it really touches on their defectiveness wound, and the intense shame experience is so overloading to the nervous system that the nervous system makes a subconscious, not conscious decision to start to suppress in order to cope. So these intense shame experiences happen to the dismissive avoidant when they feel criticized. When they feel criticized, their defectiveness wound sort of lights up on fire, and defectiveness is so painful. It creates so much shame because defectiveness says there's nothing you can do to change. This is who you are. You were born this way, and you're just not really meant to be in relationships. You're never really going to be built for love. Because to the dismissive avoidant, and this client was really just parroting something that I've heard so many times, and so it's worth mentioning, that they feel like they're just going along their business, trying to be a good person, trying to be a good partner, and their partner always has a problem with them. And it's things that they can't really control. Like they miss cues for connection. Their brain isn't wired for connection, it's wired for independence. So, of course, they would miss cues for connection. But then their partner takes that so personally and then criticizes them and judges them over that. And they're like, man, I didn't even see it. Like, I didn't even see that you were trying to have this bid for connection. Or they don't do a good job attuning to their partner when their partner has a problem. They weren't taught attunement. They've never experienced it. It's never been modeled to them, and those connections around how to attune to someone else don't exist. So when they get it wrong and they go right into problem solving or sort of, playing down their partner's feelings, their partner feels insanely dismissed and betrayed and abandoned, but they just feel like, hey, I'm trying to help you here. I'm trying to problem solve. Like I don't understand why I'm doing a bad job. And then when you try to correct them and say, well, I just wish you would have responded like this, then it's like, oh, I'm defective. I didn't even think of that. I couldn't have come up with that response if I tried. Oh, I'm never going to be able to get this. I'm never going to be able to make her happy. I'm never going to be able to get this right and meet her needs. And oh, I'm just defective and this is hopeless. And so this DA, he actually had a partner that really helped him move the needle in the direction of security. And when I was talking with him, like, what helped you? What do you feel like was the most impactful thing your partner did? It was this. He said she really made space for me when I did start to get a little vulnerable. So when I gave a little bit of my feelings, even if those feelings were negative towards her, she made space for them. She didn't get defensive. She listened to my complaints about her and said, okay, those are valid things, and I'll self-reflect, and you know, I'll take those into consideration, and I want to love you in a way that feels good to you. Well, the anxious attachments are already launched into their trauma responses. So when the dismissive avoidant does share a little bit and somebody gets defensive with them and they shut down, they're like, oh, see, it wasn't safe to share to begin with. So then they get less vulnerable over time instead of more. And this is just like a tidbit of information, but I think one of the biggest mistakes I see partners of DAs making is that they do not make any space for the DA's feelings. And the reason this has happened is because the DA has triggered them so bad over lack of attunement, lack of connection, lack of vulnerability. They feel abandoned and betrayed, and they are sitting in their trauma responses, and they are not able to make any space for the DA's feelings, just reinforcing their avoidance. So both sides, both the anxious and the avoidant person, whether it's dismissive or fearful or anxious preoccupied, all insecure attachments need to do some work. If this was interesting to you, you can see me at my website, thedatingdecoder.com.